that space right then anyway.
Hmm.
They're not planning to think of someone for you because the truth of the matter is they're on a mission to see who they can find that needs what they have. So the way to ask is, who can you think of now that you understand a little bit more about what I do on our limited conversation? Who can you think of? Now, the truth of the matter is this: they're not going to be able to think of people most of the time. They might,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
most of the time they're not. And that's another opportunity to schedule coffee so that you
Yeah.
can go deeper. You're only going to be able to go so deep when you're in that environment. And that's the reason why, if it's a meaningful conversation, you can figure out if it makes sense to have coffee.
Yeah. And I like that what you're saying there, because as you said, I mean, we're all busy and we never like being put on the spot, and we want to be helpful, but
Yeah.
obviously we often draw a blank. And I think the other part about it is when people have these conversations with us, when with a salesperson or whatever, is they don't provide us with enough context. And as you say, questions to go deeper, and then to the point where you go, huh, actually, I think I do know somebody.
Yeah.
Or because you've had a deeper conversation, maybe 6 months down the road, I'll be talking to you and I'll go, what you're talking about reminds me of something that I was having another conversation with a while back. Let me connect you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So how would you, what are some of the things that you would advise, a salesperson to include in their strategy, right? To something that they should start doing that perhaps they're not doing enough of today?
Okay. Uh, so the first thing is to start and to recognize if you're doing it, and what's the
Yeah.
right group. Now, this is always a challenge. What's the right group for you to be with? Who are you? Who's your audience? And being able to target, where are those people? So to the best of everybody's ability, be in the right place. And the other thing is to be consistent. We can't build relationships if we're here and then we're here in another 4 months and then we're here in another 4 months,
Hmm.
because again, it goes back to what we said in the beginning: know, like, and trust. So
Right.
when people see you consistently, then they begin to get a relationship with you and they know who you are, and they get a feel for your personality, and then they can start to think of people who might be a good match. So it's consistency. Another thing that I learned over the years too, John, is the value of getting involved. Once you figure out, you know what, this is a good networking group for me. This is a good group. Maybe the purpose isn't networking, but whatever the purpose of that group is, get involved and join committees. I learned that many years ago. And so when I first became a member of NABO, National
Hmm.
Association of Women Business Owners, I learned early on the value of getting involved, and I got on the education committee. That made sense. I was a trainer, right? So it made sense for me to get involved in the education committee and help them put together. We put together classes that were going to make a difference for the members. Then I became a board member. And even now, like 10 years later, now I'm on the mentoring program. So NABO has a great mentoring program, plug for that. And so I'm a mentor in that program. So the point is, get involved, because it gives you a better idea about what the organization offers. It gives the
Hmm.
members a more clear idea about, again, who you are, what you offer. Are you reliable? Do you do what you say you're going to do? When the deadline was to get this budget in, did you do
Yeah.
that? So it's more work, but it's really a good way to be able to show what you can do and how you work. And you learn. I mean, and I'm definitely a lifelong learner, but you learn and you say, well, I wasn't so good at this before. And now that I participate in this committee, I've learned some information. So it really helps with that as well. So consistency, get involved. And, sometimes people say that they're not quite sure where to start. Like, where do I even start when I'm doing this networking? How do I even
Hmm.
begin the conversation? And I find that people who are introverts really feel that way. So they're like, you know what? It's
Yeah.
just not natural for me to be able to go
Sure.
in front of go to a room where I don't even know the people. So I
Hmm.
have this little acronym, and I could never take credit for creating it. I didn't create it. And so whoever did, kudos to you. But I share it with people, and it's the acronym of FORM. And so the F stands for family. So a really good way to start conversation with people is, so tell me about your family, and family does not have to mean a spouse. or a
Sure.
significant other. And it doesn't have to mean kids. It could, I find a lot of people love talking about their kids, and they love talking about their nieces and nephews. And it
Mhm.
could be their grandkids, and it could be their pets.
Yeah.
So, so being able to start with that kind of breaks the ice. So the F is family, and then the O is occupation. And it's not just what it is you do, but the deeper question is, so I understand based on your name tag, this is your business. So tell me a little bit about what you do, and what do you like most about it? Right. And that really helps people talk, because if they're passionate about it, which they usually are, then they really get engrossed in talking about how much they like what they do and why they like it. And it really helps direct the conversation to, if you were looking to improve one thing, what would that be?
Right.
And then, that's when the brain starts churning, like, okay, maybe I could help you. I might know someone who does this. And that's where the introductions come in. The R stands for recreation. Who
Mhm.
doesn't love talking about their hobbies, right? They love talking about their hobbies,
Sure.
recreation. I just finished over the weekend the 60-mile Susan Komen walk in your city in San Diego.
Oh,
Maybe
wow.
you saw us all walking around in pink there.
Hmm.
So I love talking about that with people, because the cause is really close to my heart.
Sure.
But people love talking about that, or maybe they just came from a vacation, and who doesn't love talking about that? And then the M stands for the match. And what that means is, once you learn more about people, that's how you can do a better job trying to match them. Oh, I know someone who is a bicyclist. They were looking for a cycle club. Maybe I can connect you, right? So FORM really helps people get started on a conversation, if they're shy, and even if they're not, because it helps people talk. So that's another thing. I do want
Yeah.
to I
And
do
I know
want
I was just going to say, I just want to underline that because I think
Okay,
that's a great acronym that you,
good.
and a great method and approach that you've said, because you're right. Some people don't, it doesn't come naturally to them. And then some people think that networking is just, as you said, it's just walking into a room and it's just going, okay, that person looks interesting, going up, trying
Right.
to establish within a couple of seconds, nope, they're not the right person. I'm going to go over here now.
And then you become like a boomerang, and then it feels like
Yeah.
it was a waste of time, right? And
Hmm.
again, when we have two important resources, time and money, that are involved in networking, then that's a way to make the most of it. That way, when you leave, and really, when I was talking about goal setting, I want to say this, because
Hmm.
it's the whole thing. Begin with the end in mind. Like, by the time I leave here, what do I want to have experienced, right? Other than maybe there's a speaker who we're interested in, but what do I want to have experienced? And when we start with the end in mind, when we have our goals in mind and the right mindset, then we're able to achieve that.
Yeah, and I think, and that's another good point, because I think a lot of times we go to networking events with a very vague goal, right? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, it looks like an interesting networking event. There may be people there who it would be good for me to connect with. Like, it's not much of a goal, is it?
No. No. So the clear goal, and specific, the whole SMART goal, the specific, like
Hmm.
like for me, I want to have 3 meaningful conversations that can be measured, right? So they
Hmm.
need to be clear. Just think about those SMART goals: the specific, the measurable, the achievable, the realistic, and the time frame, right?
And then when it comes to, so I mean, there's a lot of networking done today, which is done virtually or done online or whatever. How
Mhm.
do how do you approach? Is it a different approach for that, or do the rules still apply? Just they're just applied a little bit differently.
I know it. The whole networking online, I'm telling you what, in all honesty, I'm still learning that. And so, but it still applies, because you want to go to the groups. I mean, there's lots of groups, right?
Hmm.
So you want to go to the groups that are going to seem like the most relevant groups for you. And again, it goes back to your audience. So you have to know your audience. For me, my main audience is on LinkedIn. So that's the social media platform that I refer to and am on the most. But people have to know their audience. Is Instagram, it's a lot. There's so many. So know your audience, rule number one, which is the same rule for know the right group to go to for the in-person networking. I think the thing that's important for me is, when we're reaching out to people online, let's offer some value.
Hmm.
You know what drives me crazy, John, is when I get I get so many messages of, I can do this for you and I can do that for you.
Mhm.
That drives me crazy and it doesn't make me feel good. So when we can offer value, then people start to, again, trust us because credibility is so important. So yeah, credibility, offer value. Don't send things, messages to people about, I can do this for you and I can do that for you. And let's schedule coffee. I know some people send me notes and say, let's schedule coffee. And sometimes I say, okay. And then, we do it. I actually have one next week where someone reached out to me on that. So, research people. I mean, it's, to be honest, it's
Yeah.
kind of scary how much we can know about people now
Yeah.
with all that. But when we get information from people and it seems like something that we can help with, then let's do it. And the more we can build relationships. I have a client, actually just last night I saw she had posted an article, which was an excellent article. So I thought, you know what, that's excellent. I'm going to share that and put it on my page because it was a really good article about lessons that we learned when we were growing up, in terms of beliefs that we've got and the effect that it has on
Mhm.
leadership. So you know what, when we can add value and create meaningful conversations, whether it's in person or online, those principles are still the same.
And
Yeah. No.
memorable.
Uh,
And memorable.
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, absolutely. Make it. Yeah, because then you stand out. You're correct and memorable. And what you're saying too is, Michelle, is also about the fact that there's so many people, and just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? So there's so many people who maybe use link and they think, oh great, now I can send messages to all of these people, and they just send, blast messages. And you're right, it's like, and if you think about, and I always think you should bring it back to, imagine if you were in a room full of these people, right?
Yeah.
So if I was so if I walked into a room full of people and I just walked over to you and handed you a brochure and said, here's what I can do for you, Michelle.
Yeah.
And when, or looking at your name tag, because that's all I've seen at that stage, because I haven't bothered reading a bio, clearly. I mean, people would be like, who's this crazy guy going around the room handing brochures or, handouts or pamphlets to everybody, right? So
Absolutely.
why do it online?
That's a great comparison. And I'll tell you a funny quick story. That is so good that you compared it to that. Many years ago, I remember I was in a networking group and we met weekly. And so I talked about the power of consistency. So we were there. There were a core group of us there every week. And one time there was a guy standing at the front door handing out his card. And I use that as an example sometime when I'm training. Because you know what my thinking was? I'm never going to call that guy because
Yeah.
he didn't even bother to ask anything. But you know what? In his defense, he had clearly not been trained about
Yes. Yeah.
about the right way to do it. So, I forgive him for that, but it definitely is a good example of what not to do. And your example of that, taking the online to in person, perfect.
Yeah, because I just think if people more sort of before they do something online, if they just said to themselves, stop for a moment, if this
Yeah,
was
I
in
like
the
that.
real world, not the virtual world, how would this come across? And
That's
then
awesome.
use that. And it doesn't always apply, but a lot of the times it does.
Absolutely. No, I love that comparison. That's we. But we do need to always stop and think, right? I mean, yeah, they always say before you send that email, before you press send, read it again and think about it. So that message definitely applies here too. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Because as you know, also, I mean, there's nothing worse than when you get messages or emails, on LinkedIn or other places offering to sell you something that you yourself sell. And you're like,
Oh,
what? I mean, you didn't, yeah, I mean, I can forgive most things, but I can't forgive the fact that you
yeah,
couldn't read at least one sentence in
right.
in my bio.
Exactly. Yeah, right. That does simplify it though, because unless there's some kind of way to have some synergy or creative partnership, that's not going to be a meaningful relationship.
Exactly, exactly. So what are some other points that you just like to share with the audience around networking? Because I do feel like in some ways, I mean, and maybe this is also because of uh, all the technology we have today, that the art of interacting has been lost by a lot of people. Maybe it's never been learned by some people, especially
Hmm.
people coming through right now,
Hmm.
because we've become very used to hiding behind devices, hiding behind being able to send things digitally or whatever. And I feel that networking, particularly in person, is quite a challenge to some people now.
It is. So I'd like to compare that because the R stand, I have a little acronym here and
Mhm.
actually got it from John Maxwell. I'm on the John Maxwell team,
Mhm.
coach, speaker, trainer, certified. So the R stands for relationships. The E is equip. So how I translate that is this: we need to always be learning and we need to always be growing. And when we are equipped because we have prepared and we can connect with other people who can help us, and so make sure that we're prepared, that we are taking the time to learn the right way to do it. Today, hopefully people who are watching have gotten a few tips about how to make, even if it's just a little tweak, to be more effective. So we want to make sure that we are equipped, that we take the time to think about, what's my goal, who is it that I want to meet, who do I know that's looking for something, that when I meet people today, I might be able to help them. So to be equipped, and to be organized. Honestly, we can tell when people are organized. People make
Mhm.
impressions of us. It takes 4 seconds for people to make a first impression. That's not much time. So 4 seconds. So we want to be equipped, we want to be organized, we want to be prepared. And what I mean by that too is, once we come from the networking event, and what are we going to do with the cards, right? When we get cards, we do, the idea, write messages on the back of them.
Mhm.
But there's software now that you can just take a picture of the card and have it in your system and transfer it right to your CRM system. So we can, thank goodness the technology has allowed us to simplify our lives that way. So if we said we're going to follow up with someone, do it within the next 48 hours. If you wait 2 weeks, they probably
I
don't remember
remember
who
you.
you are. So in terms of, when I mean be equipped, then that's part of it. Follow up when we say we're going to follow up, because remember the trust. If we say we're going to do it, the trust goes down immediately when we don't follow through, and it goes up when the person said, oh, you know what, that person was good. I had that happen last week. I met someone and she said, what, I'm going to email you. And you know what, when she did, I was so excited because sadly enough, people do not follow through. They say they're going to
Yeah.
do stuff and they don't. So that does not help the trust factor. The A stands for attitude. So when we are networking, we do need to have the right attitude. If we leave the office and we say, okay, let me go to this event, then that's the message people are going to pick
Yeah.
up. So the attitude determines the altitude. So we need to have the right attitude, and that takes us back to the mindset that I talked about. And then, the L, for me, I have two meanings of L. One is leadership, because we're leading ourselves. And
Mhm.
and sometimes we're so busy focused on other people. We need to focus on ourselves first, because what are we doing to lead ourselves so that we can create the right image that we want to convey? And the other L I like is laughter, because you know what? And I have a really loud laugh, but laughter, it feels good. And we have to learn how to laugh at ourselves. I mean, I tell myself, Michelle, don't take yourself so seriously. And if I made a mistake on that, then I'm going to learn a lesson from that. There's another L, right? I'm going to learn a lesson from that so that I don't make that mistake again. So
Yeah.
relationship, build it, be equipped, have the right attitude, and laugh, learn, and lead yourself.
Love it, Michelle. Especially, I mean, we live in a world today where somebody used the term recreational anger a while back, and I thought, wow, what a great term it is. That where people are just going around being angry all the time.
Oh,
So the more you can laugh and take yourself a little less seriously, the better it is. There's a couple of
absolutely.
things I just wanted to also highlight. Love what you said about when you get the business card. Our Pipeliner CRM, our mobile application is a card scanner, so that's it
Oh,
exactly.
see? All right.
You don't even have to take the person's card away from them. You can just say, oh, just hand it to me for a second and save
Right.
that card for someone else. Um,
Absolutely.
and the idea of organize, I love that too, because here's something else is, before you go to a networking event, if you haven't been to this event before or whatever, it's quite a good idea to contact the organizer and ask them what kind of event it is. What do people look for there? Are there any protocols? As you say, just do your homework, because
Right.
then you show, because if it's one where they say, oh, you know, we're very scrupulous about, you know, we don't have people like sell to each other or whatever, you know, we do. Then you know the parameters and you think, okay, I'm going to have to approach this differently. So I think it's always a good idea to
Right.
contact the
That's a good
organizers, and
point.
they'll thank you for doing that, right?
That's a good point. Yeah, good point.
Yeah. All right. Well, in the last few minutes we have here, Michelle, what we always like to do, and by the way, we did stream live in the end,
Oh,
got all
good.
that working. That was good. Yeah.
Okay, good. Good job, John.
Yeah, yeah. Don't quite know what happened
We
at the
need to
beginning
be
there.
more better prepared.
We need to be more
Well,
better prepared.
but
Hey,
you're
it worked
laughing, right?
perfectly
You're
every other
laughing.
time.
All good.
Yeah,
All good.
exactly. Yeah. I'm sure I'll figure out what the issue was. And as the CEO Pipeline always likes to remind everybody that most technical problems originate about 2 feet away from the monitor.
See, but we're laughing about it, so
Yeah,
it's all
exactly. Okay, but before we go, Michelle, what we always like to ask people on Sales Chat is a power tip, right? What is something that you do every day to set yourself up for success?
Okay, I love that question. I take the time in the morning to go into my special room and do my prayer and meditation. And in that room, I have a vision board. So I'm really big on vision boards. As a matter of fact, on a side note, I'm going to be hosting a vision board exercise on January 4th. So it's going to be posted on my website soon. But I
Excellent.
love my vision board because there are words and pictures on it that really help me to make sure that I'm in the right space, in my mind. And one phrase that I have on the vision board is, what are you thinking? And when I see that, it makes me make sure that I'm thinking about the right things in the right way so that I can create the day that I desire. So my prayer and meditation time and my vision board, and I do that every morning, which gets me on the right track. And affirmations, I do believe in having affirmations, which starts with I am, so that we can watch our words. And the method self-talk, I want to make sure that I have the right self-talk so that, again, I can be in the right mindset and create what I want that day. And if everything doesn't go right, which there's lots of days where you just exhale and say, okay, well, that didn't go the way I wanted, but I'm moving forward. When we remember what our bigger picture is and remember the greatness that we have within us already, then we can keep moving forward.
I love that, Michelle, because again, one of the things that I've been talking about a lot recently is how you start your day and the inputs you put into it. Because we were talking about earlier, right? And this doesn't matter where you sit on the political spectrum, right? Wherever you sit on the political spectrum, you likely start your morning off tuning into the news or the cable station that reflects your view. And guess what? They're not designed to bring you news anymore. They're designed to provoke a reaction. So if you start your day off angry,
Right.
Whatever,
Right.
you gotta ask yourself, number one, you have no control over these things anyway.
True.
So control the things you can control, set yourself up for your best day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So exactly. So that's why I start my day off the way I do. And it feels good because we better start the day off right. Because as you said, it's going to determine how it ends. The other thing that I like to suggest too is to then at the end of the day reflect. We get so busy, but I have learned that. And so to journal, okay, so I started off with, this is what I wanted. How did I do? Well, this went well. I was really grateful about this. I was disappointed about this. How did you handle the disappointment? So the reflection at the end of the day really, wraps it all up and helps us to learn lessons. And so we're learning a lesson here. The streaming didn't work the way we wanted, but you got to figure it out. I'm going to learn a lesson. I mean, so that's life. So I like to be able to start the day off right and then end the day off right so that we can sleep well and know that, we're human, we're going to make mistakes, and it's going to all work out.
Yeah, it's progress, not perfection, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I like that. Progress, not perfection. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, listen, Michelle, this has been fantastic. It's a great insight. Thank you for joining us today. Again, it's Michelle Beauchamp. If you just want to give your website address, I mean, we'll have all this information available for people, but just, you might as well go
Okay.
ahead anyway.
Yeah, so the website is www.beasaleschamp.net. beasaleschamp.net. And I do want to say that I have a course, online course on my Champ Group Academy for networking. So that course is called Confidently Know What to Think, Say, and Do during networking. So for people who want more information on that, that's the topic that we're talking about today, then that is also on my website. You can check that out and see if that's something that could help you as well. So thank you so much for inviting me
Yeah,
today.
this was fun, Michelle. Thank you. And I encourage everybody to check out Michelle's website, because as you can see, I mean, she really knows how to network and knows how to network deliberately. And to be honest, it's the one thing that I guarantee you most people don't do as well as they could do.
I agree.
And, yeah. And Martha, good sales chat on Twitter today?
Yeah, very good. So nice advices, almost the same things. Yeah, great.
Perfect. All right, my name is John Golden from Sales Pop Online Sales Magazine, and my colleague Martha in Vienna. Again, I'd like to thank Michelle up in Orange County, and we'll see you all for another sales chat really soon. So thank you. Bye now.
Bye.